Hello, everyone, and happy Easter. And it is episode 11 of the Mom and Tom podcast. I'm Mom.
And I'm Tom. And yeah, just as she was saying, we are recording this on Easter. So happy Easter, everybody. Today, the episode is going to be about our childhood pets.
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about doing something about, dogs or pets for a while now. So we're excited to be finally talking about this topic. But before we get into it, I just want to quick mention that we have an email. Our email is momandtompodcast@gmail.com. It's all one word, no spaces, nothing like that. And then we also have an Instagram, instagram.com/momandtompodcast. Again, it's all one word, no spaces. So if you'd like to send us any emails or give us a follow on Instagram, we'd love to hear from you and interact with you.
Yes.
So now that we got that out of the way, childhood pets. So we decided that we want to try to do this in somewhat of a chronological order.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to actually pass this off to Mom so that she can talk about the pets that she had when she was growing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, my husband and I both like pets, and I think we both are big believers that pets are a great thing for kids. And thankfully, my parents, especially my mom, loved pets. And for her as a child, she used to bring strays home and do things like that. So she was very welcoming of pets. So when I was a little girl, I know we had some cats before our dog, but I don't remember them a whole lot. But what I really remember is our dog Scooter, and my sister had gotten her for free in someone's house down the street, something like that. She brought her home, and of course my mom said, that we could keep her. And she was part poodle, part Pomeranian, so she was a small dog. She was a cute little white dog, and we used to, because she was so small and us being kids, we used to do funny little things like we'd put her in the mailbox and take pictures of her. Or we'd fit her into weird little spaces. Or poor thing. You can see why the cats didn't last. But no, she was a good dog, and it was kind of funny. The poodle in her, she would go after birds and squirrels in the backyard. She would try to hunt them, and she could jump pretty high. And I remember one time she actually did injure a squirrel, and my mother attempted to nurse the squirrel back to health, but it took off on us. But so anyway, and then there was another funny little time that when my brother was young, he brought home an injured bird in his rain hat, and my mom let him keep that too until again that thing, it got well, and I remember it started flying around my brother's room, and it's finally we realized we had to let the bird go, and I think we just opened a window and
let it fly.
Yeah. But no, Scooter was a lot of fun, and she lived a long time, and we got her when I was pretty little, and they ended up putting her down when I was away at college.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember that, back then it was all long distance phone calls and stuff like that, and my parents went to my dad's work late at night to use what used to be called the Watts line, and it was a toll-free line, so that they could both be on the phone and call me and tell me that they had put the dog down. And I remember I cried so hard, and I cried just terrible hard. So one of those pets that you have for most of your life, at that point, So, and in the meantime, in there, at one point I had a little hamster, and I named him Marvin. I have no idea where that came from, but
it's a cute hamster name.
And he was fun. We had one of those habit trails. I don't even know if they still have them, but it was called a habit trail. And what it meant is that he'd have his main cage, and then we'd had these plastic tubes that went out, like plastic tunnels for him. Went out from the cage and on into different compartments, so he could,
kind of have a little adventure around his.
Yeah, he could go into like having a he's got all these rooms, sort of, and he'd go play. But then he started busting out of there. He would bust the tube apart, and he would get out of there. And I'm amazed that Scooter never caught him and ate him. But we would find him days later, we'd find like a big pile of Scooter's dog food in a cupboard because he used to like the cupboard by the stove because I'm sure it was warm. But we'd find these piles of Scooter's dog food.
He'd collect them.
Yeah, and then we'd find him in there somehow and, try to get him back in the cage. It was pretty funny, but yeah, just never understood how Scooter did not sniff that thing out and kill it. But
that's funny.
Yeah, so those were really my pets growing up. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about when Rob and I, our first pet, when we bought
That's
our
my
house.
dad, by the way.
Yeah. When we bought our house in 1992, and first thing we did was get a dog because, again, we're both dog people and we didn't have our kids yet. So we got a free black lab puppy.
How did you get her for free, by the way? I was just curious.
An ad in the paper.
Someone just giving him away?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was the mom's like 8th litter or something like that. And the owner was just giving the dogs away.
Oh, was she a runt, by the way?
Yeah,
I thought
she
I
was
heard...
a runt.
Okay.
Yep. Dad went to see the puppies and she was a runt. And he thought it would be best to get the smallest one, being as black labs are pretty good sized dogs.
Right.
Yeah. And she still ended up being about 78 pounds.
Okay.
So, which isn't huge for a black lab, but it's not really super
Not small. Yeah.
Yeah. But before the kids were born, of course, we were both working. So the dog was home alone all day, which probably was not smart on our part, but she was, we had to try to come up with different ways to try to confine her, which was incredibly hard because we found that we tried to contain her in a portion of the basement that was tile by using an old door that we weren't using, and we would block off that part of the basement and try to keep her there. Well, we found every day we came home and she was out, and she would either tear up. One day we came home and she took one of the side pillows from the couch and it was unstuffed and stuffing was everywhere, and and it was always funny because she was such a cute little dog, but it was like, oh, she would come home and like a pile of my shoes would be in the middle of the living room, and she would ruin my shoes. And anyone who knows me knows I have lots of shoes. And, yeah. And so she was funny the way she would get out. And then finally one day, Rob wanted to find out how she was getting out. So he decided to pretend that he left the house. He shut the door. He got her set up and then he shut the door, but then he snuck back down the stairs and he watched her. And he watched her hop up on the door, get her paws over the edge, and then she'd just scamper her back feet until she hoisted herself over the door and she landed in the middle of the living room. And then Rob stepped out and it was just like, oh,
she just froze.
Yeah, she just kind of froze and kind of cowered her head and knew she was busted.
Oh, geez.
So then we tried to put her outside when the weather was decent. So we tried chaining her up outside and even had her on a choke collar and everything. But she would somehow bust free and she could jump the fence. So I would come home from work and find her in the neighbor's yard. And that was embarrassing. Felt like such bad neighbors.
Wouldn't they chain her up in?
Yeah, they chain her up in their yard. We were so
and wait for you guys to get home. Basically,
we were so blessed that our neighbors, didn't just say who cares and let her run, but they always took care of her. They always, would go after her and bring her back. And
that's funny.
But we felt bad, And then we built a kennel and thought that'll do it. Made it high. And there was no way she was going to, and built her a dog house and built her a kennel and came home and she was still getting out of there. And we just were like, what did she do? And we figured it out that she pried up the very bottom of the chain link. She could pry it up. We came home, she had like scratches on her nose.
Oh, geez.
And we saw where she pried it up and she's shimmied out of there.
Oh my gosh.
So then Dad had to run a metal pole through the bottom of it
so she couldn't pry it up.
Yeah, so she couldn't pry it up, keep that from happening, and then we'd get complaints because she would bark all day, and she eventually grew out of all that stuff, but oh my goodness, that was a lot,
Yeah. And I was not I was still pretty young when
Yeah.
we did end up putting Cleo down. I think I was, oh gosh, I didn't think about this beforehand.
I would say you were maybe 6,
6, 7,
6, 7 or
something like
so.
that. Yeah, that's what I was gonna go with too. So what the funny part is like, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make a whole lot of good memories with Cleo.
Yeah,
like, because
sadly.
what's funny is when I was like Mom was just explaining, they would keep her in the basement, and we had a gate at the top of the stairs, so that so that she couldn't go upstairs. But then when we come home, she'd always be waiting for us to let her upstairs when we all got home. And what she'd do though is she'd run up to the gate and just stand there and wag her tail and wait for somebody to open the gate.
Yeah.
And every time I tried to climb up the stairs, because I was still little and short, she'd whack me in the face with her tail over and over again.
Yeah, that tail was bad for you. That was bad. That was not good news for you.
I believe she earlier, I believe Dad was saying that she knocked my older sister off the stairs one time or something like that.
Yeah, we had our old deck was really more of a balcony, and so it just went off the kitchen and then a long stairway down to the ground.
Oh, gotcha.
And one time, Cleo knocked and Rachel went
flying all the way
rolling down the stairs.
Oh my gosh.
But she was all right, thank goodness. But it was just one of those horrible moments as a mom to watch her and not be able to get to her fast enough to stop it. And yeah, that was kind of scary. But she was all right. It was amazing. Thank you, God, that she was all right.
Oh gosh.
But yeah,
but yeah, I'm not trying to make it sound like she wasn't a good dog or something. It's just when I was little, because she was a big dog, it was I had a lot of memories of her whacking me with her tail and stuff. It's just funny to think back on now. For sure.
Cleo was really more than anything your dad's dog, and he loved her and she loved him, and but she was a good dog. I remember when my grandpa passed away, she came and it's like she knew I was sad, and she just came and she just laid with me and just didn't leave my side. And sometimes you feel like
I really
dogs
do
just
think
know that stuff.
Yeah, I really do think dogs notice that stuff.
Yeah.
That if you're even like when you're not feeling good or something, that they can tell.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
it's
they
cool.
come and do that. And I know that, Rachel had no fear of her whatsoever. And, when she was little, but I know for you, we kind of always felt bad. Like, oh, she's, Tom's not really having this relationship with the dog.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But we had to put her down because she got hit by a car and her hip was shattered. And even though we had some repair work done on it, she was really never the same after that. And within about a year or two, we just ended up having to put her down.
Wasn't she just kind of sick all the time and stuff?
She was just sick all the time. She never felt good.
Yeah.
Poor thing.
Yeah. It was the right thing to do.
It's hard, though. It's very hard.
So then after that, though, we ended up getting another dog. Her name was Midge. She was a little... she was not little, but like she was a Welsh Springer Spaniel. So she's kind of... she was definitely smaller than Cleo was.
She was about 50 pounds. So
she's kind of medium size.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a funny story of how we got her. I mean, I'm sure you will have a different story of what it was like from your perspective, but from my perspective, I think I want to say this was probably a year or two after Cleo.
Yep, I would say
something like that.
Right, yeah.
And so we had been without a dog for a while at this point. And I definitely, my siblings and I really were excited when my mom and dad came home and said, hey, we're going to be sitting a dog for the weekend, or dog sitting, whatever you want to call it. And we were like, oh, that's awesome. We haven't had a dog in a long time, so it'll be fun. And that was Midge. She came over to supposedly visit for the weekend, and then after we had a blast with her for a couple days, on like Sunday evening or something like that, I want to say, my parents were like, hey, would you guys want to keep Midge? Should we keep her? And we were like, oh my gosh, yes. We want to keep her.
Yeah, she was about 5 years old. It was
Yep.
our neighbors at the time. They had a friend who was getting married, and both he and his fiance had dogs. And Midge did not always get along with other dogs very well.
That is true.
And they didn't really want to have two dogs. So they kind of had decided that Midge was the dog they were going to look for another home for. So it was kind of sad. I think that guy, he never, I think he was kind of sad to lose her, but it was a gain for us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And this dog definitely I grew a lot closer to, for sure.
She was your dog.
Yeah, we were really good friends. I think a big part of that was because I don't know exactly what the reason for this was, but I ended up being the person who walked her the most. And I think that's kind of part of the way that we got close was because she always knew that I would let her go outside and stuff with me and we'd walk around.
She had a lot of energy.
Yes, she was a Springer Spaniel and she wanted to run around. She really liked it. But like Mom was saying, she didn't get along with other dogs that great. Anytime that we'd, run into another dog while we're walking, she would kind of go nuts. She'd be like barking at him and stuff. And so she was kind of a stinker. Wasn't always the nicest. I mean, she was great with people. She was super nice to everybody. Never had a problem with other humans. Just would not get along the greatest with their dogs. But I think it was somewhat of a thing where it felt like when she was outside, she just wanted to walk around or run around, and she didn't. And that's when she didn't like other dogs. It felt like whenever we were at home, though, and another dog would come over, she would do better at getting along. Like she wasn't,
because we dog sat for friends,
right? Like she would sometimes she would be a little bit mean at first, but she wouldn't really. She would get used to it pretty quickly. It felt like, So I don't know. It was kind of a weird thing. She was a stinker outside, but then it's like you knew she was like a sweetheart on the inside.
I don't know if she just felt more vulnerable when she wasn't in her domain, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's possible. But yeah, I have some funny stories about her. Was when we first got her, my dad liked to kind of play rough with her sometimes. And I mean, there's a lot of dogs that like to do that, where they're kind of like,
he'd like put gloves on,
and so that she could kind of bite him and nip at him, and it wouldn't really hurt. And but what was so funny is she would go into this like frantic mode where she just liked to run around in the hallways of the house, like just run in circles. And we used to call it scoot mode, where because she looked so funny how she would just be running around in circles.
Yeah, because she'd kind of get angled.
Yeah, it's like it was almost like
bank in the corners.
Yeah, it was almost like funny. Those bike races where they're like, the motorcycles where they're like, way on their side. It was funny. And so me and my siblings, we'd all sit up on the couch while she just ran around in circles, and it was pretty funny. And then, she just had a lot of energy. There's a few times where there's a middle school that's close to where we live. And so and they have tennis courts at the middle school. So we would like bike over there and then just bike around in the tennis courts. And she'd just chase us on our bikes around
especially in the fall when they took the nets down and you could just kind of weave in between the poles and stuff. And she'd run because it was so hard to tire her out.
It was,
but she could run. She'd like to chase you on the bike. And
yep. And we would bring tennis balls and throw them around and yeah. But the thing is because like we were saying that she wasn't super comfortable around other dogs, a lot of times it was hard for us to find situations where we could just let her run around like that because we were afraid of other dogs, coming by, and she would go be mean to them.
Take off.
Attack
them. Yeah.
Right. So, but that's why this tennis court thing was really fun because it was kind of like a caged in area in a way that we could just sort of let her run around and she wouldn't be able to get away from us. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, she was fun.
What I was going to say though is that I think my favorite thing that she did was during the fall. when we would rake up all the leaves, she loved the feeling of laying on the leaves. Like, I don't know exactly what it was. Maybe it's just like the cool feeling of it, or like, I don't know exactly what it was, but even without prompting, she would like to just run through that. Like, we'd pile up the leaves. And I mean, obviously there's a lot of times where we'd take her ball and throw it in the pile and then she'd jump in there.
Yeah,
but
she always could find it. She'd like to wrestle around.
Yeah, she liked to wrestle around. Yeah. But even like without throwing the ball, she just liked to walk through the piles and like lay on them.
Kind of burrow in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really funny. We have some funny pictures and stuff of her just sitting
really
on these piles of leaves. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The last thing I have written down here that I wanted to say was she because when I was talking about how we were really close, she would do this thing where on like school mornings, I had an alarm clock that would wake me up so I could get ready for school. And my room is the only room that was in the basement. So what she would do is, I mean, she'd be upstairs because my parents were the first people awake, so she could be around them, and she'd, get let out and stuff in the morning. And then she would just sit at the top of the stairs, kind of just sitting there listening. And then once my whenever I was like just waking up, I would notice that she'd always come down to my room. Like every time I was waking up, I was like, this is weird. Like, can she like read my mind or something? She like always knows when I'm waking up.
Yeah.
And we think that what was happening is that she would hear my alarm clock go off, and then she'd go, oh, he's awake, and walk down here.
Yeah. She was funny.
Yeah, it was really funny because she also liked to do this thing where when a lot of times we would, for our rooms, I don't know, I feel like a lot of us did this, that we wouldn't always completely close the door. Sometimes when we were in our rooms, we would kind of just push it most of the way closed. And so she liked to ram her head into the door and open the door.
And then every once in a while it was closed all the way and she'd boom.
That was really funny. She would do that, and she would just think that that's how all doors work. So yeah, even if the door was closed, she'd just ram her head into it, and then she's like,
sometimes you'd hear her.
You just hear a dunk, you're like, oh, that's Midge. She's trying to get in.
Oh, she was a fun dog.
Yeah. So yeah, me and her were really close, and that was a good experience for me. I really liked what you were saying about being able to grow up with a dog. I think is a really cool experience.
It is. It is.
Do you have any stories that you wanted to?
Well, did we want to talk about how we then got our next dog? How we dog sat for?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we dog sat for a friend of ours that had two dogs, Ginger and Gigi, and
they were very different dogs.
Very different dogs. Gigi is a little toy poodle, and Ginger, I can't even remember what kind of dog, but more of a medium-sized dog.
Yeah, she was like Cleo size, wasn't she? Maybe not that big, but she was bigger than Midge.
Yeah, she was maybe around, I would say, maybe 60 pounds, something like that. But and then
very sheddy.
Yes, very sheddy.
However you describe that, shed a lot.
Yeah, that dog
she would
shed a lot.
Yeah.
But and Cleo got along with those dogs pretty well, and she always did a good job. But
Midge,
and then Midge. Sorry.
Yeah, Midge got along with those.
Midge got along with them. So when they were looking to downsize on the number of pets they had in their house, they had decided to get rid of Gigi, and
who was the little toy poodle one.
Yeah, the little toy poodle. So we were asked if we would take her, and we decided to do that because we knew that Midge was getting old. She was starting to have arthritis and just kind of having a hard time with different things, and so I think about a couple years maybe before we ended up putting Midge down, like probably about 2 years or so.
Yeah,
that's when we got Gigi, and they did well.
Yeah,
together. Yeah,
they got along.
Yeah,
and I mean, what was funny about those two is that they also kind of liked the same sort of toys, and so sometimes they would interchange toys. Like it'd be one week they both really like this one toy, and then the next week they swap. They like the other person's toy better, so they would take that one instead. And they're fun even, but yeah, they got along pretty well as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
And they were also very different too. Like, Gigi is way more like cuddly and
a lap dog.
She's much more of a lap dog.
She's not much of. She will play, but really pretty much just in the house. She's not
big about like running around outside.
And you can't really even walk her. She won't walk. She'll walk maybe half a block, if that.
Yeah, and then she gets tired. Yeah. She doesn't want to walk anymore.
Midge was a great walker. Yeah.
Yeah. Midge would almost like pull you when you were walking.
And I used to take Midge on my runs with me.
Yeah.
Too, so she liked that. It was again a way to tire her out.
Right.
She was a fun dog. But another interesting thing about Midge, like versus Cleo, is that Cleo, being a lab, she didn't kill animals. She might corner them, but she never killed them. Whereas Midge was definitely a killer. And I mean, did. Just not that she was a bad, but I mean, just that was more her instinct. She killed a couple of rabbits. I had to scoop up a couple of rabbit remains out of the backyard before the kids would find them. And one time though, she killed a squirrel in the backyard when Rachel was out there, and that was not good. That was I had a very upset daughter, and she's screaming, and I look out there and I see Midge with the squirrel in her mouth and just shaking her head and thinking, oh, that squirrel doesn't stand a chance. And she did let her go, and the squirrel kind of limped away, but I think it went under the picnic table and died, because I mean, by then Midge had done her work.
Damage.
Yeah, she had done her damage.
I think if I remember right, if this is the same story, is this was a squirrel that fell out of a tree.
Yeah,
like it was in one of the trees in our backyard, and then it accidentally fell, and so Midge was able to get to it. Yeah.
Because she'd try to catch those squirrels. Remember how she'd take off? If she saw a squirrel, she was in the house, she'd be all of a sudden, she'd be just whimpering and dancing by the sliding door. And then the minute you let her loose, she would fly off the deck. She would run down the steps, and she'd literally she'd go under the seat, the deck seat, and just jump out to get the.
That is a funny detail. So the way that our deck in the backyard is structured is that there's like 3 different levels of it. So there's the top level, and then stairs to the second level, stairs to the third level, and then stairs to the ground. But what she would do is, because of where there's a light pole, and so she would like to. The squirrels would always want to run up the light pole. And so instead of going to where the third set of stairs is, she would just jump off the third level of the deck and run up at the light pole. And
she was fast. She was fast, but not, the squirrels are pretty darn fast.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
And they had a
see.
head start.
Yes, they definitely did. But it was pretty hilarious to see her. And then she just like stare up the light pole like, oh, you guys gonna come down?
Yeah. She'd bark, and she'd try to wait them out. They weren't quite that dumb.
Yeah, they weren't coming down.
Yeah. But like I said, she killed a couple of bunnies, and she'd have them behind the shed, and we'd see her. All of a sudden, she'd come up, from being outside, and she'd have like fur in her mouth, and it's like, what? So
what's going on?
Yeah, so you knew something was going on there.
I swear I heard a story from Dad one time where he said that he was walking near the shed or something, and Midge was walking next to him, and like she never would like walk right next to him, so he's like, what's going, like, why are you like watching me so intently? And it's because she had something behind the shed. She had one of those rabbits or something.
Oh man. Yeah, and those are just the ones we know about, I guess. There could be more.
There could be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure I've heard a lot of people have stories about like cats too that will bring stuff to them.
Oh, yeah.
And say, hey, look what I got.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh.
Yeah, even
very nice.
My childhood dog, Scooter, she used to do that. She would kill chipmunks, and she'd bring them to my mom, and she didn't realize my mom was upset that she killed the chipmunks, but Scooter didn't understand why she was upset, so she would bring the dead chipmunk, and like lay it at my mom's feet, like she thought it was some kind of peace offering. Like, I don't know what I did, but here you go.
Look what I did, Mom. Oh
So that's
gosh.
pretty funny.
Yeah. Pets are awesome. To wrap this up, I was gonna say that we still my parents still have Gigi. She's
Yeah.
still around. She's actually right underneath us right now,
Mm-hmm.
sitting on a
Mm-hmm.
pillow. And I definitely have thought about getting a pet. Because the apartment complex that I live in actually does allow both like dogs and
Yeah.
cats.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the only concern that I have is when you, how you were talking about earlier too, where like when you, because both me and my roommate work full time,
Yeah.
so
So you're not
especially
home.
especially
Yeah.
with a dog, like dogs, not saying cats are bad or anything, but dogs require a lot more attention. Like they're
I
much
think
more
that's true.
attention
Yeah.
seeking, and want to be around you, I guess, like all the time.
And they usually kind of like to be walked, whereas cats, you don't have to do
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right. And dogs need to go outside
Mm-hmm.
too and stuff, like when they use the
To go to the
bathroom.
bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were just thinking that, like, I mean, we both like dogs, but we just feel like maybe it wouldn't be great for the dog since we both
Yeah.
work full time. But I don't know. Maybe we'll think about it. We'll see.
Yeah.
And it's not like either of us dislike cats either. So we have talked about getting a cat too.
Yeah.
Just because it'd
Just
be
to
fun
have
to
a
have.
pet. Yeah.
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 Just have them around. It's
Yeah. They're
fun
kind
to
of
have.
just, I don't know, sort of comforting, sort of,
yeah.
amusing.
Very true. So I think that pretty much wraps up our discussion about pets. We just wanted a quick mention at the end here that because how we were talking about, we were recording this on Easter, and this will go up in a couple of days here. So
And
which
there's
means that
something coming up.
Yep, which means that a couple of days after that is when Endgame comes out.
Endgame.
Yeah, and we're both really excited. We both already have our tickets. I'm seeing it twice.
I'm just seeing it once at this point. Yeah.
But we'll see, maybe. No, I'm just kidding. But we just wanted to mention that I hope anybody listening is also as excited as we are, because definitely the next episode we're going to be talking about it. So we haven't discussed yet about what we want to do about spoilers, but I'm thinking, I mean, my theory is that especially with this movie more than almost any other movie that we've talked about, that like the people who want to see it are gonna see it like within a week, I would think.
I would think so. Yeah.
I have a feeling this movie is gonna have a crazy opening weekend, like absolutely crazy.
So yeah,
I'm excited to see the numbers and all that, to hear about it and see how everybody thinks of it. So we just wanted to throw that out there as a little teaser for next week's episode, or 2 weeks from now, sorry. So yeah, that wraps up our episode 11. If you guys have any comments or want to tell us any stories about pets that you have, feel free to send us an email. Our email again is momandtompodcast, all one word, @gmail.com. Or feel free to leave us a comment on our YouTube.
That'd be great, guys.
Yeah. And then just one last thing. We also have an Instagram.com/momandtompodcast. Come follow us to see some funny pictures of my nephew and to know when our episodes are posted. So yeah, I think that's all we wanted to mention.
Right.
Any last words?
I don't think so.
You're good? All right.
All right.
We'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Bye-bye.